All right, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, finally, I can watch this movie. So, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre III from 1990. Now, some of you know where I stand with this whole series. It's not a favorite of mine. I'm not a fan of the whole Texas Chainsaw franchise, like as a whole. Same with Halloween. Halloween, I adore. Halloween 3 I love, 4 and 6 I love too, and then that's basically it. Same with this franchise. Same thing. The first one is an absolute masterpiece and an iconic horror film. The second one is my favorite in the series. I love Texas Chainsaw 2. And this is only, what, 4 years after? Yeah, 4 years after, right? 86 was Chainsaw 2. So it's only 4 years afterwards. And I've seen this movie a handful amount of times. It's fine. That's really all I can say about it because every time I watch it, this is one of my most watched movies. Sorry. One of my most watched movies that I still don't remember much after watching it. Like, I know I enjoy it, but at some point it just becomes background, like filler. I don't know what it is. I love the dark tone of this movie. Like, the atmosphere and the tone of this film is the darkest, like, probably until the remake we got in '03, which is a fantastic remake. And that's the only other film in the series. Like, I don't care for any of the ones past the remake. They're all right to terrible. And Next Generation, I mean, it's fun seeing Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger like in early roles like that. But I used to like that one a lot growing up, and then I just realized how terrible of a movie it is in every way. But I love the tone of this movie, and I feel like they never quite captured the same dark atmosphere that this film has. And that's one thing I love about it. I wish we had more gore here. Like, it's a Texas Chainsaw movie. It's not a necessity, as we know. But you either have, prior to this to pick from, you have Toby Hooper's just amazing use of visual imagery that you don't need to see any gore. It's all implied. Or you have Tom Savini's just, as usual, fantastic makeup and everything, prosthetics, and all his practical effects in two. But we don't have either of that here. For me. Like, I don't feel like we have anywhere near the type of great imagery that we have in the original or in the second one. And then we don't have the gore to counteract that part of it missing as well. So, I also don't like. I know it sounds like I don't like this movie. It's fine. Like, I have not many complaints. All I remember when I think of this movie is Ken Foree, who's fantastic as always, running around the woods at night being chased by Leatherface, and the main chick being chased around at night by Leatherface. Like that's all I remember. Like, because it's pretty formulaic of the original, this movie. And the same thing with the next film, with the Next Generation. Same exact plot, pretty much. Group of friends end up getting lost. They meet Leatherface and his lovely family. And then a few of them are killed, and the lonely the survivor girl, escapes and loses her goddamn mind in the end. So, same plot. It's just not delivered or executed anywhere near as well as the first two for me. But who knows? Maybe this will change it. Let's talk and watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 or Leatherface TCM 3. So we get the opening narration, which is just another staple of this series. Unfortunately, that's not Larroquette doing it in this film. But I'm so happy we got him back for the remake. That was one thing that made me so happy when the remake came out, is hearing his voice doing the voiceover again, just like in the original. But different person here, doesn't matter. But I think it's interesting that they tell us that Sally Hardesty ended up dying in a psychiatric hospital, like in private care, in 70. It's right on the screen. 77. So 4 years after the events of the first movie. That's interesting, especially since this original timeline that ends with the next movie in the new timeline, she's well and alive. Well, not anymore, but she was before the new one, that terrible one that came out. We'll talk about that sometime. Not now, or anytime near now, but we'll talk about the rest of them. Interesting to hear that she dies, like in that way too. So she was so psychologically severely affected by what happened to her friends and what she went through and saw. Who knows if she killed herself and she was locked up for crazy people? Who knows if who knows what happened to her? But she's dead, and that's sad, man. I love Sally. And then there's two other recorded incidences, which are the last movie. Is there's not? Yeah, there's one other one. The last movie, and then they say that they terminated the life of the guy Sawyer. Which what do they call him in this? W.E. Sawyer. They're always changing the names around in this. That's another thing. Continuity is terrible in this whole series, but fun. But they're saying that he died in the gas chamber in 1981. And then they concluded that Leatherface, quote unquote, is supposed to be that person they executed, but the personality that he changes into, like whenever he puts skin on. So that's what they're saying. So supposedly Leatherface is dead. How wrong they are. The title's called fucking Leatherface. I gotta read this too, because this is great. Like, I love this ending part of the narration when it says, if there was no Leatherface in reality, then Sally Hardesty can finally rest in peace. If there actually was a Leatherface, he remains at large, and the so-called Texas Chainsaw Massacre was only the beginning. Awesome. Like, great setup for this movie. And then some random bitch is smacked in the face with a hammer, and then we get the title card. And she gets dragged away. Kate Hodge I like in this. I like her personality. I like her as an actress. I haven't seen her in many other things. I can't think of maybe one other thing off the top of my head what I've seen her in, but I have seen her. I don't like her boyfriend, or brother. It's not her boyfriend, it's her brother, right? I don't like him. That's probably another thing. Like, I can't relate with his character at all. So the whole thing with him takes this film already down, because I love the cast of both previous films, like all around. Everybody immediately don't like this guy. Special nod to K&B Effects, because they were fucking everywhere throughout the late 70s, 80s, 90s, through today. And they are fantastic. Kurtzman Nicotero Berger did the effects on this, which is another thing. And I know it's because of heavy cuts to this film. Like, this film was cut down, like a considerable amount, if I remember. I don't think there are uncut, like, clips of the kills or anything that are uncut. I'm not sure if they exist, but this was heavily censored. Like, they kept having to send back and cut more and cut more, and it shows. And it sucks when you have such talent like K&B doing the effects here, and you barely get to see them. But cool intro with the credits, like when you see him with cutting the skin, stitching it together, and making a mask and everything. Looks great there. So it's just the kills. If I remember, I mean, maybe there's stuff that I don't remember. I mean, there's definitely stuff, but if there's like some great kills, I would remember that. So there's not. But we'll see. Or are they boyfriend girlfriend? Because she just said you sound like my father. So they're not brother and sister. They're boyfriend girlfriend. It doesn't really matter. It's a group of two people. And of course, we have another thing they hear on the radio of graves being desecrated, and they just happen to have that station on while driving through this small area where you gotta love it. And it perfectly sets up the events of the movie. Like, today, this wouldn't work, because everyone would just have their iPhones and iPads with their music synced up with Pandora and all that stupid shit that people pay for. They'd have all that blasting. No one would be driving through this countryside. They wouldn't hear anything about these graves being desecrated, mass graves and stuff, and then they'd have no idea to anticipate anything. So you couldn't make these movies today, which gives them charm. Yeah, as I said, this is like a busy month for me, since all my family members' birthdays are like right next to each other. My mom's is technically right now, like today. But actually, I should. Well, that's not the same thing. Never mind. My point I started this whole clip for was, I'm not fucking editing this, so I'm glad I'm getting this out, and I'll have Psycho 3 tomorrow for sure, like during the day. But yeah, so this is just raw, unfiltered. If I fuck up, so be it. They're brother and sister. They're not. They're fucking each other. They are brother and sister, and they're fucking each other. Don't matter. So I just thought of something. So they're saying that they had one of the Sawyers, and they were convinced that that was Leatherface. That was the killer, and the Leatherface that Sally was talking about being attacked on end all night by was just a different personality from when he put dead skin masks on. Which, side fact, I love how Slayer has a song called Dead Skin Mask based off Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Great. I digress. But the whole reason that they think that they had Leatherface killed was because they killed the Sawyer guy. Who was the Sawyer then that they sent to the electric chair or the gas chamber, whatever it was that they killed him in '81? What other huge ass guy was in that family that they're gonna match the description to what Sally's saying? Wouldn't Sally have been brought and say, "Isn't this the person?" Well, I mean, it was '81 when they found him, so she'd be dead. But still, like all of her descriptions of Leatherface would be this giant fucking man with a chainsaw. If they got Drayton Sawyer, that's just an old dude. Like that doesn't fit the description, and neither does Chop Top. He's dead. No one does. So none of that makes sense at all. Just thought of it. A dickhead sheriff when he says, "Where are you coming from?" They say L.A. and we're going down to Florida. You say something's wrong with the airlines. What? It's illegal to friggin' drive cross country now. Speaking of the great Ken Foree earlier, which he will make his arrival soon. Amazing as always. I mean, Dawn of the Dead, which is my least favorite now out of the trilogy. From Beyond, so many movies he was in, but after this, 1990, can anybody think of other like big horror films he was in? Because I'm blanking right now. The big thing I always say is Rob Zombie. He's another one that he rejuvenated Ken Foree's career with House of a Thousand Corpses, not with Devil's Rejects and Lords of Salem and everything after that. So that was another career that he resurrected, Zombie. But I don't remember anything after like this movie, like during the '90s, that Ken Foree was in, like a good known horror movie. If anybody knows, let me know because now I'm curious. Oh, there's the armadillo dead on the side of the road. Nice callback to the original with the roadkill. But I love armadillos. I've always had a thing for them, and I don't live out in the desert or in Texas or anything like that, so I've never been able to just see one crossing the road. So it's sad when this happens to the poor armadillo. Actually, if anyone wants to get me a great gift for my birthday in September, ship me an armadillo. If you're from the desert area, that would make my year. Alright, I think it's the name of the gas station that they stop by. And the weird guy starts taking their picture and everything, and the cowboy and all that, which the whole thing in the next movie with Matthew McConaughey, his whole character is basically this cowboy here. This guy in the family, which there's always new family members. Like, who knows where these people come from? There's like distant cousins that moved in for the summer and now he's here. Like, I don't know about any of that. But now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I'm pretty sure, unless it's just like a random thing written on the gas station, but I love the fact that it's called the Last Chance gas station. Like, it's just Last Chance right there on it. That's awesome. And whoever created the whole side hustle of running up on strangers, snapping their picture, and trying to charge them money? Like, who thought of that? Because that's ridiculous. Like, I know what I look like. Like, I know very well what I look like right now. I'm looking at myself. I don't need a camera taking a picture of me and then spending money on it to see how I look right then and there when I know. So whoever is, they're a genius. Whoever created that whole hustle. Maybe it was me. Told you, not editing, so you're getting bloopers mixed in. And every time I see older movies like this and I see the gas prices, it makes me just want to jump out a fucking cliff. Out a cliff? Yeah, I want to jump out a cliff. I want to jump out from upon a cliff seeing these gas prices because it's unbelievable. I mean, this is just my survival tip, but anytime a stranger especially comes up to you and then sees blood anywhere, no matter where you said it came from, said the armadillo, and they touch it and just smear the blood up on their finger and touch it like this, run, because there's something wrong with that person. And this is 1990. AIDS was a big issue then. And can we also agree here, mostly, I'm sure we all won't, if especially if one of you is named this and is exactly like this, but somebody who dresses like a full-on cowboy whose name is Tex should be punched right in the face. Does anyone else agree? Like, come on. Like, don't dress like a full-on cowboy if you were born with the name Tex. Like, you're just typecasting yourself. I don't know, random thought. Also, another survival tip that a lot of people should know by now from watching movies. If you're driving cross country 20 something years ago, when people used maps still, don't ever have somebody say, oh, yeah, the highway's there, but there's a new road. Let me show you the shortcut. Anytime someone wants to show you a shortcut, you're going to die. So, but again, no one uses maps no more. And then the weird camera operator guy who was harassing her, she goes to the bathroom and he's peeping in on her and stuff, which makes no sense to me either. Like, I'm sure everyone has a thing, but the last time I ever want to see like a woman naked is when they're pissing or shitting in a bathroom. Like, so why people do that either is a whole thing that I'm not getting into. So this is just a big performance, right? By the gas station attendant and Tex, because otherwise it makes no sense. Unless they don't know each other at all. Tex and this gas station guy, and he really did get mad at him and took a shot at him after they peel off and he shoots the car. It's got to be a whole thing, right? Because it's the last chance gas station. This guy's definitely a harbinger, just like we've seen in a million movies. And then Tex is there, and we know he's part of the family, and they're his family's next victims. So that whole thing was a charade, right? Like, if not, it makes no sense. Spoke too soon, because then it's nighttime. Great lighting here at the gas station with the green light coming down and stuff. And then nice little shot of the car with the blue sky, and it's just like a split silhouette shot almost. There's some cool shots in here. But yeah, we see the truck take off, so presumably that's Tex. So yeah, they know each other, and this is a whole charade. Charade? Charade you are. One thing I've always liked about this, I do like Leatherface's look in this movie. If there's one thing that I can fault Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 for, it's Leatherface's look. Like, it still looks great, but if they would have had this look in Chainsaw 2, so much better for me. I just like how he looks in this. He looks much better, nowhere near the original or the remake actually, but I really always liked his look here. And yeah, this whole scene with when they first encounter Leatherface and they were changing the tire and everything, and now he's attacking the car. So dark, like the atmosphere is fantastic, and I love this. But then somewhere along the lines, it just kind of drags and just like keeps on going with the same stuff. So I don't know. Let's see. And then Ken Foree just literally crashes on crashes on screen into the movie, and he should be deader than dead, but he's absolutely fine. There's like no injury at all to him, and that was a decent wreck. He even says totaled when he gets out of the car, but way to make an entrance. So Benny shows up, and like I said, as good as Ken Foree is, this is where it starts dragging for me. They just talk and talk for a while. Nothing's happening, and he's addressing their wounds. They could have cut this easily, but it's already a short movie. Like, this is an hour and 20 minutes, so it's already short. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. He says that he's been coming up here for 2 years, like every other weekend or something like that, for 2 years, because his friends and him have a survivalist camp or some shit, and like they're preparing for like when the world ends. So he's like really trained in the wilderness and survival. Cool, but like it doesn't really need to be here. Like, I'd rather see Leatherface and like the family doing crazy shit like much sooner than having to wait all this out. All right, I'm trying to wrap my head around why I lose interest at this point in the movie. Like every time, I think it gets like lost in the darkness too much, if that makes any sense. Like I said, I love the dark atmosphere, but it's too dark for a little while with not much happening. So the whole atmosphere just feels wasted, if that makes any sense. Then when the tow truck driver and the crazy other family member we've never seen before, I forget who plays him, great job. Like, I love his performance in this. The guy has a fake hand. He looks like Buster from Arrested Development with with the hook. He's great in this. And then when he shows up and they're talking, him and Ken Foree, and the lighting's great, like, that's what I feel is needed. That 10 minutes that they're spent in the woods with Ken Foree making their introductions. The lighting and everything with the tow truck, that's visually appealing for me. It draws me back in. I don't know. So I feel like it gets lost in that dark atmosphere by not utilizing it enough. If that makes any sense at all. I like how Leatherface, when he starts attacking Benny, Ken Foree, I like how he doesn't just have the chainsaw, like when he's de-chainsawed. He also has like a mini electric pizza cutter device that he cuts into Ken Foree's leg with. That's a nice little addition. He has the hammer, he has the chainsaw, now he's got the little pizza cutter. Okay, this is also why this doesn't work for me, this whole middle section. This mostly the middle of this movie is what I never remember anything about because it's not memorable to me. But then we have the girl from the beginning who I thought was random, smack in the face. That's right, she's the survivor here, and they run into her. Then there's more talking in the woods and stuff. The pacing is not great for this movie. And I know people who this is their favorite chainsaw movie. Like actually, Eric, you just posted, well, I made a post the other day that it's your favorite. I can see it just for the dark tone alone. Like, it's great. But the pacing just doesn't work for me in the middle of this. Like, it's nowhere near just the masterful levels of 1 and 2. And this is another reason exactly why, of what I just said. They bring her back, and the only reason they bring this girl even exists is just to throw another body there. That's the only reason, because they find her, she has a scene that she's smoking a cigarette with Ken Foree, and then Leatherface finds her and just immediately kills her. So why even have her in the first place? Just to have a kill here. And it's lazy. It's lazy writing. And it's just another thing I don't like about it. But the kill, too, was non-existent. He just chainsaw right through her. She screams. There's no gore. So K and B. And then boyfriend's brother lover. He's sawed to death. He's gone. Good riddance. I really don't like that character. Upon rewatching, like, yeah, does nothing for me at all. And I don't care for the house in this either. Like, it looks too nice. It looks too neatly kept. Like, there's no way this family of cannibals is keeping a house this nice. But you can also argue that this is just another house, that they just killed some family and moved on in. And if that works for you, I mean, take it. It's probably the best scene in the movie for me. When she goes upstairs and she sees the little girl, and the whole room is filled with bones everywhere, and she has a doll made out of bones with a little skull face. And she goes over, "What's your name?" "This is Sally." And then she friggin' stabs her. The little girl stabs her in the side, and she says, "Yickety yak, don't talk back." Amazing. That's great. Best part of the movie. Grandpa looks great as usual. Then we have, this is our whole equivalent dinner scene from the last 2 movies. First of all, I don't buy Tex being part of this cannibal family. Like, same with Matthew McConaughey in the next movie. Do you buy that Matthew McConaughey being part of a murderous cannibal family? No. Like, what gain does he have? Like, same with Tex. Like, unless they're actual family members, which I don't see the resemblance one bit between him and anybody. But I don't know. It just doesn't work for me either. Like, him being in this family doesn't work. Like, at least Arlie Ermey in the remake, he looks the part. Like, he looks like he's a sadistic motherfucker. And you've seen him in any other movies, the millions of things he's been in. And he was a sergeant and shit. you'd expect him to be very intimidating, and he is, and that's what's another thing that's brilliant about the remake. But I could see him being in with the whatever the hell they're called in that, the Hewitts. Can't see Tex being in this family one bit, and creepier having a kid here, like usual in a horror movie. Throw a kid into a sequel, into a similar scene, it'll make it a little creepier. It does, but like, whatever happened to this kid? Like, we never see her again or anything. Where'd she come from? Is she Tex's kid? I'll assume. Here's an idea for you. Since nowadays they like making everything a female version, like Ghostbusters and all that shit. Have a sequel, direct sequel to this film, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, and have the daughter here, the girl, play like whatever amount of years later this is, 30 years later, 30 something years later, have her be grown up and her be running around as a female Leatherface. Scriptwriters, get on it. The Saw present that he gets that says the Saw's family, one of the best moments in the whole series. Like, it's such an iconic line from part two. And then just having that is a beautiful chainsaw, man. Are you serious? I wouldn't mind getting killed by that. That's craftsmanship, son. I like how Leatherface listens to music. And he puts it on, whatever the hell her name is, the main chick, puts it on her head, and then he starts listening to it, and then the dickhead Buster with the hook ends up throwing it in the oven, and he gets pissed, and he takes the guy and starts shoving his head in there. All that's great. And then Ken Foree is messing around with the last chance gas attendant guy. He's dumping body parts in the woods. The severed head looks cool. And then he's just wastes him. I mean, very easily, too. I forget if he comes back. I wouldn't be surprised because he looked very overconfident when he says one down. Looks like he just like hit him and he fell into the water, and that was it. So who knows if he comes back. And Leatherface having his little lessons on the little computer. He's having food when it's a clown and all that. That's great. That's hilarious stuff. Having said that, though, doesn't really belong. Like, I could see that in Texas Chainsaw 2. Like, with that, the humor in it. This is a very dark film, as we've talked about. Doesn't really fit here as much, but it's still fun. And things get all tense, and again, it's trying to be the same thing as the last two movies with the chaotic dinner scene, and it's still fun, but it's just nowhere near as well executed or just interesting or anything like that. It's a very derivative film for me. It's another way I'd describe it. Derivative and not too memorable, but still fun while watching it. But I'll forget the plot like tomorrow. And then Ken Foree shows up and hears the chainsaw. He's like, these motherfuckers. And starts just drilling down. He gets hit, Leatherface. Tex gets hit. Mama's chest gets blown out. He's wrecking people. And then they try to escape. Leatherface is after the main chick. And then Leatherface gets punched in the face a few times by Ken Foree. Great. And then we think he's dead. He's not. Daytime. She's on her way to the road. And she just sits there. And good old Benny's alive. And then the weird gas station attendant, I told you he was back. He comes back. And then he tries struggling with her. And she says the great line of, he says, do you know how to use that thing? And she says, goddamn right, you backwoods motherfucker. And blows him away. Benny gets in. And they drive away. And then for some reason, I mean, he's chased cars before. He just slowly walks up as they drive away. They don't seem to even have any type of observational awareness to know that he's right there behind him. But I think this all puts to rest the fact at the beginning with the narration that indeed there is a Leatherface and he is out there and a reality. So, alright guys, like I said, it's not a bad movie by any means. It's a good movie. It's just compared to the first two and the remake that are so much better for me. And just lack the pacing and just some stupid writing choices and the tone being overly dark sometimes, and then some content and stuff that they put in there that contradicts that tone. Just things like that. And then just the normal stupid shit I always bitch about with any movie. But fun rewatch. It's not memorable for me. But people who love it, I'm glad you do. So Psycho 3, which is a very interesting one, especially that I consider Psycho 2 one of the greatest sequels ever made. But I'll have that out tomorrow. Good night, guys.